Hey guys, Rex here. I'm going to share something with you. I know I haven't been posting a lot on YouTube lately. I've been posting a huge amount of information on Patreon. Multiple posts per day, various levels in our training programs we have initiated over there. But I want to share an idea with you guys just to let you know it exists and something to discuss and think about. We build up security systems and protocols administratively, physically, technologically here in our lives for those we care about and those we love, right? And we do that quite commonly without even knowing it. But how do you really set something up that's secure enough, good enough to work if you really want to have an important conversation? Let's say I wanted to have an actual real discussion with you guys. The way that could be executed in the past is what I refer to as the cornfield conversation, right? Which, as a function of itself, if you know the full story on that, on my end, is a vetting mechanism all of itself, showing vulnerabilities, giving people an excuse to, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different things you can do. But the cornfield conversation idea is basically get away from all technology and whisper something in a cornfield out of sight and out of hearing of all the technology, right? That's kind of the old school way of dealing with that. What if you want to have that level of a conversation through these means here? What do you do? There are ways to do that. But you got to think about it in terms of like, there are robust security mechanisms in place in the most benign things in our lives that if you really look at them and slow down and look at them, are really robust. That much more if you look at stuff that's important. So I don't know if you guys have any experience in high security fields. I've actually, and this is kind of what it was just triggered. And I thought, why didn't I not talk about this in my stupid classroom, right? Because I've got a lot of experience in that, and I forgot about it because it gets buried with stuff over time. I've got thousands of reps and sets navigating through high security environments, going into and out of them. Thousands of them with like professional experience. Like I understand like the protocols and the checkpoints and all the different mechanisms, right? Maybe not on a super high level, but as a functional level. There's ways administratively, there's ways physically, there's ways technologically, and there's mixes thereof that guys in different people will employ all over the world for different things. I don't know if you guys have ever been to some place like that. I've had some interesting encounters too, just in my life with a variety of very interesting characters where I got access to stuff that's, some of the most secure sites in the world. Like, And interestingly, we'll start with this, then I'll give you some details. Some of your best security is totally not even visible. It's in place and you would never have known it. Some of your cheapest security is extremely loud. Now I'm talking in a general sense, okay? Like if you have to continuously yell how tough your security systems are, that's the security of the system, is the volume. That must be a significant portion of that. And there's different styles and there's different mixes of that, obviously, right? Some places are loud and quiet at the same time. How is that possible? Well, anyways, so this is how it kind of works in a high secure world. And then I'll ask you some questions and you guys let me know what you think, okay? So basically, how can we adapt things and concepts from the story I'm going to walk you through of how to get into an extremely secure environment? How can we adapt those concepts and principles and procedures or rebuild them to suit our lives, our things we hold precious, our treasure chests, and our, most guarded, precious things that we have? Okay. So typically, if you were going to get access to a really highly secure place, you probably weren't the guy that initially wanted that to happen. You were probably recruited, or you were probably they advertised it in a place that the wrong kind of people would never look to find it. And they're filtering out all the wrong people who like, oh man, that would be pretty cool. You don't want those guys to even start the process of vetting. So they'll advertise in places where they're looking for the quiet bank clerk, or maybe the really good soldier that does a good job quietly, or maybe for a different field, or they'll just put an ad in the newspaper under the business section. When they're looking for people with certain kinds of experience, they'll filter out that way. Then you might get hired into a job, okay? There's multiple levels of this stuff, right? Get hired into a job where you don't know it until you look back. Like I look back years later and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you don't even realize that, right? Like they'll have meetings, they'll get to know you, they'll start to collect information, they'll start to categorize your skills and your competencies and your weak points, and they'll test you on certain things. Then they'll do formal testing, then they'll do kind of an invitation, then they'll kind of do some contract work, they'll do screening, they'll do physical screening, psychological screening, other testing. Under observation, you don't even know it. And then if they choose that, yeah, okay, you're right for entry into this deal, then they will absolutely, offer that under contract. And then there's a swearing in deal, a swearing in ceremony of some kind, right? Where you swear allegiance to the U.S. Constitution or whatever it might be. And they give you the expectations on the most base level, right? And these are through these combination of different things from different angles, they establish that at least, human level of security, or that administrative level of security, by going through all those different filters and processes. Then there's the security gate, because there's certain locks you cannot pick, right? They give you the security lock of distance and time. What I mean by that is, like, sometimes when you want to go to this secure place, highly secure place, or when you need to go to the highly secure place, right? You have to travel a long distance, and it takes time. That filters off a lot of people right there. It's impossible to pick the lock of distance and time. One of the models I referenced was the 40 years wandering in the desert example. That is a filter that cannot be picked. You cannot locksmith that, right? Especially under his supervision, right? I'm sure some people sort of, kind of got through in the base minimum standards, but all your serious problems were absolutely weeded out of there after 40 years of refinement and testing, continuous redirection in different directions, right? So that's a whole nother level that we're discussing over on the Patreon page. But distance and time is crucial. Then you get to places where the rules, you're getting a hint that you're going to go and learn the rules and the laws of this new system, the procedures, the security protocols and procedures that are in place. There'll be signage. So your first sign is basically going to tell you, like, okay, the security is this way, just a small normal sign on the road, right? For a highly secure facility. As you get closer, then it'll give you a bigger sign saying, like, exactly what it is, like dead end ahead, security checkpoint ahead, right? That's your second sign. Then you get to a third sign, which is big, that says warning. Warning. Security checkpoint is ahead. Here are the consequences of violating security protocols. Here are the consequences, okay? And then you get to another, and you travel more distance, more time, allowed to absorb that. Then you get to another sign. There's a lot of signage on the way. Signs, communication filters, warnings, right? Another sign, basically, then it starts to articulate, okay, have this ready, have this ready, have this ready, have this ready for permitted entry. Then when you get there, the final signage, before you approach the outer security perimeter, after all the stuff we just said, after all your personal vetting, after all your personal training on how this stuff is going to work, all your schooling, whatever, then you get to the outer perimeter where there's a fence of some kind, and usually a checkpoint, okay? A checkpoint with a physical barrier gate and an armed guard at the checkpoint who's going to inspect, and there's a sign there that says stop. Stop and, do the checkpoint. They're going to check for what? Identification. They have to. okay? Even if they know you, they're going to check for you might have a certain secondary as form of identification for that specific facility. You're going to have some other kind of papers or permits or passes that say you belong here, man. You belong in this security for whatever. Then they're going to check to see, even with all that, they're going to check to see if you're wearing the right uniform, if you know what you're doing. They're doing personal cues. They're looking at you. They're reading you. It's usually a semi-experienced person at your outer, usually supposed to be a relatively experienced person at that outer perimeter checkpoint who can kind of read people well, right? And who is familiar enough with the type of people that go in and out of there day in, day out to where they'll be able to pick up on something weird. And they will call to the inner security and they'll verify. This is another step. They'll verify, does this guy have the clearance? Does this guy have the permit? Is this on the schedule? Is he on the list? Yes, yes, yes. No, he's not on the list. Okay, so like you could be here, but you're not on the list, so no, you don't get in. There's a lot of that. That's just the outer security. Then what do you have? You have a lot more distance. So you cross through that initial crossing, if you will. Okay? I hope you guys are picking up what I'm laying down. If not, you can go to Patreon and explain it in greater detail because there's a lot of layers to this. I'm not just talking ethereal layers. I'm talking practical layers, okay? Then you have more distance and time. So you have to travel across all this DMZ, demilitarized zone, or whatever it might be, right? This fields, open fields for like maybe miles to where you can't even see the facility yet in any kind of detail from where the checkpoint at because it's like over the hill still. You got to travel down the road. You're under constant surveillance for, the whole time they're watching you from a variety. They got like mobile surveillance. They got fixed, closed circuit television cameras. They got probably other stuff that you don't even know about, right? Just to drive past this huge area. The whole time you're being, monitored. Then you approach and they give signage to direct you to where you need to go for most people, right? It'll kind of direct you where. Then you go to the parking lot and there will be a lobby, which is another security checkpoint to concur everything the outer one just had. What if someone crawled under the fence? So they're going to reconfirm everything that the first one did. And you don't even get to go into the lobby, which, by the way, has secure doors, ballistic glass. You do not control the door. The guy inside sees you and reads you. And if you're on the schedule and if he's expecting you to come to the front lobby, he will hit a button and let you in there. And then you go into the front lobby, and then that guy is usually an old retired guy or somebody like that who's extremely well familiar with all aspects of people that come in and out of there. He's been doing it 30 years. He's retiring. He's tired. He just wants to visit with people in and out of the way in the lobby and do that initial screening. He's going to know if you're up to something. He will not recognize you if you're not regular. And if you're not regular, you better bet you're going to go through additional security checks, okay? And so they got the lobbies there, and he's going to go through your stuff. Guess what? Before, on the prior checkpoint, you also leave all your unauthorized shit there. You don't get to take that into the inner perimeter. So like you check your weapons, you check your whatever stuff you're not allowed to take in, right? It might be a cell phone. Like it might be certain reading materials. It might be whatever. And then you get to the lobby. They're going to verify you don't have your comms on you, the wrong kind of comms. All that stuff is still good. You're not trying to sneak a weapon in. They'll verify that again there. And if you look familiar, it's a human form of biometrics, familiarity. Like, hey, Bob, how you doing? Kind of hard to fake that if you know the guy for 30 years, right? You can still fake it, or if something's up, he'll be able to detect, like, hey, what the hell's the matter with you today? You feel all right? Like, well, I'm just kind of sick. I'll check in with, these guys, and they're going to check you out. What the hell's going on? Is he actually sick? Because they don't want you to go in there, right? Then, if he permits you further access, then you approach the inner perimeter security, which, by the way, you're in the lobby, but all the way around whatever the secure site is, you got freaking high fences, concrete barriers, steel barricades, all kinds of stuff that stuff can't drive through. You might have physical trenching. You don't know. Like there's a series of high fences, security grade fences, right? And they have concertina wire on them, and they have sprayed for weeds with some Agent Orange type stuff or whatever it might be, to where there's not anything alive in there. Nothing can sneak under there. The wire's buried under the ground. They have perimeter security alarms that if you touch that fence or if the wind blows on it wrong, it goes off on all the panels and like 10 different guys will show up immediately. They have mobile security, like sometimes they have animals. I've actually known guys that were in charge of like real secure places in different places, and they literally had lions, freaking lions in between the outer fences. And if you tried to get through, the freaking lion would eat you. For real. This still happens today. Or at least 15 years ago, right? So they have all kinds of different things. They have guys with guns observing you. So it's armed the whole time. They're in fortified positions. You can't get to them. Even if you had like 10 guys, it'd be a hell of a fight to take out those guys. By then, everyone else shows up because they have like all their inner perimeter, whatever it might be, security guys. They're like special QRFs or whatever it might be, ready, sitting next to a pile of guns and bullets and all kinds of horrific stuff, ready to pounce on anything that challenges any of those deals. There's any problem. And they'll have use of force and all that stuff, right? Totally pre-authorized. So there's no screwing around. Okay? So then you got this whole giant barrier. Sometimes there's minefields or whatever, right? It depends on what it is. The gate to that is extremely robust. Now you got electronic steel doors, bulletproof glass, all this kind of stuff. And there's another series of people vetting you, right? You just came from this guy. He obviously let you through. They give each other the signal, let this guy through. Okay, they let you in. That's where you might, if you have special equipment or anything like that, they'll issue it to you there, like a main control type facility, right? And she'll issue like comms, maybe special weapons. By the way, if they have to come in and out of there, all the procedures that are in place to secure that facility, like when they change out dudes, they clear the floor, they do everything. You know what I mean? There's no gaps, so that it's, and if they don't ever have more than 2 doors open to the same area, they have what they call, different, where the one door closes and then the next door opens, and before the one behind you, there is always doors in between you and where you want to go. Sally ports or whatever, there's different words for them, right? They will then verify where you're going. They'll write you down in a log. It's all administratively done, along with in combination with physical and technological stuff. You might have biometrics. You might have some kind of digital passcodes, depending on what you're doing. And then you get into the inner perimeter of the secure place, which is not it. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. Now you're still under armed surveillance, or there's still armed guys all over the place, ready to any problems, right? Don't try nothing goofy, right? And there's still all that stuff I just said from before exists between each level of security underway deeper into, more and more secure areas. They might then have a separation. Okay, are you extremely high security or less security? And then you go through for efficiency's sake. If you're doing low security stuff, then you go through those checkpoints and all that stuff within the perimeter. And then if you're doing extreme high security stuff, you go through the different kind of checkpoints. Does it make sense? And they have their screening and whatnot, and you're on the list and on the schedule, and everyone's expecting you, all that kind of stuff. And there's always distance and time. You can't pick that lock. Walking across an open field, 500 yards to the next set of facilities with gates and locks, after you've been disarmed or whatever, right? Or after, all those things are built in for a reason. Distance and space and time, works pretty good. That's why they're pretty secure, right? Then when you get there, depending on whatever module you're participating, whatever unit it might be, it depends, right? Whatever outfit you're trying to connect with or work with or been invited to or whatever it might be, right? Then you'll be invited in and you'll go through the continuance deals, and every second of the day, those checks and security, all that stuff continues to exist the entire time you're doing whatever job it is there that you need to do. And then at some point, after you've established trust, now you have to do reps and sets before you get into the inner stuff. You have to do reps and sets. They want hundreds of reps and sets of trustworthiness This guy goes in, he comes out, he does his job perfect. We check on him, there's no problems. This guy comes in, goes out, he does his job perfect, there's no problems, right? And this is for worldly systems. Normal knowledge, everyday life type shit that's benign on the level that what I'm talking about over on, Zulu and over in the Patreon channel. So these are like the security measures that not even your high stuff. There's a lot going into that. Okay? Each one of those things I described can be rejuggled and remanaged in your life, in your communications, in your mag. And if you don't have stuff like that in place in your mag from someone who knows what the hell's actually going on, you're going to have problems. You're going to have infiltration. Guaranteed. And what's usually the failure point when those robust systems are in place? What's the failure point? Usually human weakness in the form of trying to be nice or maybe lackadaisical or something like that. But usually someone's trying to be courteous or nice or give someone the benefit of the doubt. Terrible idea in high secure environments. And if your family does not fit into what you would consider to be the ultimate Fort Knox treasure, then you're going to have problems, okay? Because there's going to be infiltration by people that don't even know they're being used. They don't even know it. Did you know that happens all the time? It's usually how they get stuff in and out of places like that. People don't even know. Like someone was whispering in their ear or something. Oh yeah, I'll just do this. Like they don't even know. They don't even know what function they're having and a part of an infiltration system. So all these things have to be in place simultaneously with the people actually manning the gates and posts. All these concepts are absolutely derived from pre-existing models that have stood the test of time for thousands of years on multiple levels and have absolutely weathered the storm. That's what we're talking about on Patreon, okay? The questions I want to ask you is, or are, right? Because I got a couple of them. What's the difference between static, right, security systems and mobile, right? Because all that stuff I just said, you have to understand how those same principles and systems have to be able to travel with you wherever you go. How do you implement that? That's the stuff we're talking about, man. It's very important for you to understand. You need to start thinking about these things, whether or not you're participating in actual training on that. You need to start thinking about, why? Like, you think about it. Good guys are continuously under attack of evil guys that want to mess up their stuff. And they're infiltrated and they're set up and all kinds of shit happens. Well, how do you get around that? You have to redesign stuff specifically designed to filter that kind of stuff out. Plus, you have to live discipline on your end to make sure you're upholding the standards and you don't draw problems. That's that distance thing. It's one of the best locks and fences there is distance. Out of sight, out of mind, off the path. That's why he tells us to come out of Babylon. Get the hell away from that. Then when this stuff happens, they're gonna shred each other. To get to you, they have to go on like a 2-trek hike, right? They're gonna like infiltrate. All right, I got a question for you guys. Ready for this? All right, infiltrate my area. I'm gonna see you from a ways away, man. And guess what? I can do stuff at distance. So if Mr. X and the Chi-Com invaders or the mafia or whoever wanted to come infiltrate, they literally have to cross huge spaces that require time. And as they're picking that lock by putting their one foot in front of the other, because they cannot go through the snow unless they have a snowmobile, airplanes or something, right? So there's always, having these systems understood is going to help you tremendously, right? What did General Patton say, by the way, about fixed fortifications? Because we think of our security apparatus in the way I just described. That's the world. That's the way, by the way, the world does it. The world does it with, guess what? Concrete, which is what? Basically clay, right? I mean, sort of, right? And iron. An empire made out of concrete or clay and iron mingled with iron. The hell's that mean? Oh, weird. We're reading Daniel, the book of Daniel, that's repeated later at the end of the book. That empire that's built on that kind of security and is constructed in that way, very strong from physical things. What about other procedures? What did Patton say about fixed fortifications made of like all that shit? Fixed fortifications are a monument to man's stupidity. Oh man, we're pretty secure around here. I got a big fence. I got pointy stuff on it. I got cameras. I got all this stuff. And I think everyone should have that. I have that stuff too, right? But like, if that's all you got, like fixed fortifications, like with modern technology and maneuver and all that stuff, absolutely, that's good. That's good for the enemy that is equipped to fly over the top of all that shit. Now what do you do? So I only laid all that out there with all that stuff that you could do. That's an example of a highly secure, location on the ground level in the physical universe. Now, how are you going to protect that in the physical universe from stuff that could just fly over the top of all of it? What if the bad guy has a helicopter, just flies over all that shit, comes and lands where you're at, and all they got right in? Patton was right. So how do you deal with that? Well, you have to understand the concepts so they can be implemented in all directions. Not only all physical directions, but all conceptual directions as well. Does that make sense? Because it's beyond that. These concepts can apply with relationships. These concepts can apply to who you're going to invite over for supper, man. I'm telling you, you know why so many innocent people are taken advantage of or robbed or have stuff stolen from them or are maybe abused in a horrific category? Because somebody was not doing what I'm telling you need to double check. They did not double check their actual security on those levels in their systems, their administrative security stuff in their lives. Because we walk around, we think we're in Disneyland. Well, you're not. Even in this country, which is very protected from the threats they advertise, like Putin, right? Yeah, okay, so you're protected from him. But like how exactly? What about your neighbors? Are they good ones or bad ones? Do you even know? If not, then you got to figure it out. And you can build relationships. Most people are decent. You got to... There's systems in place to vet all these things. That's what I'm trying to equip everyone with over there. So I want you guys to think about it here on YouTube. That one is another very important one that everyone should kind of have a hint and know of, right? Okay. Also, you've ever heard the saying, high tech beats low tech? Oh man, is that true? That is absolutely true. High tech can beat low tech. Because what you have, satellites, battleships, B-2 stealth bombers, nuclear missiles, right? And then you have these other people with lower technology, and you can absolutely decimate them. But here's the deal. It's not about the tools or the technology, it's about how you implement it. You ever hear the saying, low tech beats high tech? Yeah. You ever see those guys wearing sandals with Nokia phones and like wool, what do they call those things? A wool blanket and an AK. Takes out the world's biggest empire twice. Two of them. The two biggest empires, the biggest, meanest ones on the block. We're good. We just want sheep and Nokia phones and goats. We're good. We're not going to play your games. Low tech beats high tech then. Why does that... What's the difference? Why does one win sometimes and the other one wins different times? Fighting is about maneuvering. It's about making smart decisions, understanding all possible dimensions. You can maneuver your way off the X when the incoming stuff comes, and how you can maneuver to deliver your stuff onto the X when that's required. Their X, not yours. Does that make sense? All right, I'm going. It's a rant a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's been in place. You got to find how to utilize, extract the concepts that work, learn what those concepts are appropriate to accomplish. That's important. And then implement that in a way consistent with your structure, your systems, how your belief structure is, all that stuff. Make sure it's functional, test it. It requires maybe some experience to do that, but you need to start thinking about that life in that way. The reason there's so many problems between people on this planet is because of, accidental trespassing, or absolutely no walls, no gates, no filters. And so people perceive other people to be trespassing on their stuff when there was no gate or filter applied. There's just so much unnecessary miscommunication out there because there's no signage posted anymore. The rules and expectations are never defined at school, at church, in your life. If you bring up the idea of bringing standards and rules back into life in either school or church in most of America today, what happens? You're the enemy. Well, what does that tell you? Uh-oh, I'm the enemy? Why? Why am I designated the enemy? I'm trying to live good around here. Maybe it's time to button up your stuff then, right? Button up your stuff. If you dig this kind of information, we're posting, I have 10 pages, line by line, of a list of the stuff I posted just this in January of 2023. And then it's like that every month over on Patreon about this stuff. Why is it not here? Did anyone listen to the communication? Because I have gates and filters and checkpoints to make sure the kind of people I want to be there are going to be there to hear that message. Okay? So, if you want to join us there, invest in your training, invest in your deals, support the operation. We'd love to have you over there. Or if you kind of don't think you want to, or if you want to complain or have an excuse, I absolutely don't want you to be there. I do not want you in. A lot of the stuff we're doing in the training right now is funny because guys are like, Rex, but a lot of people aren't going to be able to make it. They're going to get out of the training. I'm like, I don't want more people. I want less people, and I want good ones. I want good ones. I want quality, not quantity. That's the function of gates and checks and security practices and all that stuff we just talked about. Quality. Standards. Am I a dinosaur for talking about standards of this day? Maybe. All right, Rex out.